Hey, welcome back to the State of Love and Trust. It's episode 317, and this week we celebrate 30 years of this record, Pearl Jam's No Code. It's the first record to fully feature Jack Irons on drums, and listen, it was a little divisive back then when it came out in 1996. Is it divisive now? Paul and I dive in with our retro review of Pearl Jam's No Code, next on the State of Love and Trust.
Hey, I'm Mike McCready from Pearl Jam.
Hey kids, this is Mark Arm from Mudhoney.
I'm Kevin Martin from Cannabis.
I'm Kim Thile from Soundgarden.
I am William Duvall of Alice in Chains.
Hey, I'm James Joseph from Jaosn and the Cold Gun.
Hi, I'm Dave Cruzen.
I am Alan Johannes.
Hey, I'm Greg Deal with Dead Pioneers.
And this is the State of Love and Trust.
The State of Love and Trust.
The State of Love and Trust.
Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. Feed the algorithm.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the State of Love and Trust podcast. I'm one of your two hosts, Jason Kerepesi, and alongside me, as always, is
Paul Ghiglieri.
Paul. We've got large glasses. Are these called glasses? What are they called? What are these things called?
They are the Glencairn glass. So
Glencairn glass.
I don't know. I wouldn't call them large. I would say that they are appropriately and symmetrically balanced to enhance the aromas and flavors of the whiskey in which we are about to imbibe and partake.
Correct. And, listen, this is a long album as far as reviews are going to be. So settle in for this one. Grab a drink if you're able. If you're driving, don't do that. And I could have been here with a snifter, and that would have been real bad of scotch. But we'll do a Glencairn glass. If you're here on YouTube, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Really do appreciate everybody who takes the time to hit that little thumbs up down below. It does help out a lot with the algorithm here on the YouTube. And if you are listening only, Paul, what should they do?
You should rate, review, and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Feed that algorithm, because don't it make you smile?
I love it. I love it so much. And listen,
another segue?
If you love,
me think so.
This was great. This was great. If you love that kind of witty banter, repartee, if I may, then you should be following us on all of the social media channels. There's a little lower third on the screen right now with the handle and all the things that we do. And if you like us a lot, you can go ahead and
follow
support the show.
These guys. Follow them.
Ooh, it's the original logo. We like that.
The original logo.
If you want to support us even more, there are links below in the video description, in the pod description, and in the link of the bio of all the social media to join the Patreon. Lovely community over there. And of course, the pod shop. I'm wearing a shirt of the pod. So are you. That's one of our originals. That's the snake from '92. This is the tree with the little red mosquito. And at the very bottom, Paul, can you see the little hearts? The little hearts swirling all around.
Yeah, I like it.
Wow.
The imagery is apropos. I'll give you
very
that.
much so, because we are talking about this record. I remember the vinyl this week, Paul. This record, No Code, Pearl Jam, No Code, turning 30 years old.
Can you believe it? I remember when I opened the cellophane on that bad boy and popped it on the CD player for the first time.
I'm going to attempt to open the full gatefold here.
Oh, good luck with that, because it's like a quad fold, I think, that guy. Look at that thing.
You can't really see me or hear me, but you can see the
Jason has been swallowed by No Code.
Hi. So there you go. There's the big No Code. Turns 30 August 27th. We are big fans of this record, obviously, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty because we've never done this before. We've never done a full retro review of No Code. We do it one time and one time only, and this record, we waited. We waited, I want to say a couple of years when we first started retro reviews. I was like, ooh, No Code. So you know what? Let's wait. Let's wait until it turns 30.
Look, I'm glad that we made that decision, but I have to be honest with you.
Please.
I believe that this is the most important retro review of a Pearl Jam album that we will ever do. I think it is more important than 10. It's more important than Versus. It's more important than Vitology, Dark Matter, all of them.
Okay. I look forward to learning why. In the meantime, before we jump into the first track, let's give you some figures here. I mentioned the release date, August 27th, 1996, fourth studio album, 13 tracks, 49 minutes, 37 seconds of running time, released on Epic Records, produced by Brendan O'Brien. It was recorded in 3 cities, Chicago, Atlanta, and Seattle. The Seattle location is actually Stone Gossard's Studio Litho, which is cool. It was the first record in full to have Jack Irons on drums. I'm not really going to count Foxy Mop. Technically he was, but yeah, anyways. Billboard numbers, debuted at number 1, third consecutive number 1 record, sold 367,000 copies in its first week, which is great, considering the previous 2 records of Versus and Vitalogy of 950,000 and 877,000. Can you imagine a record pulling in a third of a million copies in 1 week now?
That's just staggering numbers that you're sharing.
Yeah, people are stoked on like 50,000 now, such as the streaming era. But let's see here, 1 million units sold as of 1997. Basically, it took 6 months to get 1 million records sold. Fantastic record. And 3 singles: Who You Are, Hail Hail, and maybe that was it. Actually, I forget.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways. Should we just get into it? It's 13 tracks, like I said. We're going to be talking here for a while, I think. So should we just dive in?
We are.
Some thoughts to open up the show here?
I began by saying that I think that this is the watershed moment in the band's career, and that if you're going to do a retro review, this is the record that is most deserving, because it's the record that it was a waterfall, an avalanche of success the first week that it opened, and then there was just a precipitous fall after that. and I don't think people were ready for what the band was planning on doing with this record. And the retro review allows us the opportunity to go back and to really frame this properly, because No Code is the record where Pearl Jam, they stopped trying to prove or show or demonstrate that they were the biggest rock band in the world, man. And they started figuring out what kind of band that they actually really wanted to be. And if 10, which is arguably, their most successful record on a lot of different levels, not just in terms of record sales, if that's the record that made them famous, then No Code is really the record that gave them permission to become Pearl Jam. And I think the band that we know today doesn't exist without this record. So this is, I think, a hugely important retro review for all of those reasons and more. I'm excited to get into this one with you.
Let's do it then. Let's just dive in. First track, here we go, kids. Sometimes. No Code's journey starts with Sometimes, and we begin in a starkly different way than any of the 3 previous records. This thing is tranquil, it's delicate, it's hushed, almost like this song is a secret. And I think this is intentional, Paul. Not only do I think it was wise to undo the blueprint of starting out aggressively with the music, but the lyrical focus feels more cerebral, less personally emotional. Now, for me, one isn't better than the other, but the point is that Ed was showing that he's more than just someone who feels deeply. He also thinks deeply. And I don't mean that to sound demeaning at all. Remember, this is a retro review. As you mentioned, we have the context of the last 30 years of seeing how Ed would grow and articulate the wisdom, right? So I want to start with the music here on this song. The main riff is such a mantra. And we talk about rearview mirror riff being a mantra for Ed back in his San Diego days. This is also kind of a mantra. And when you pair it with Jeff's fretless bass, it's a very different feeling to any other Pearl Jam song, save for maybe Release. You think about mantra riff, fretless bass, slinking around it. There are some similarities in there. And the changes are subtle. If you've ever tried to play this song on a guitar, it's simple and the parts don't stray too far from each other. But the mantra nature of the main riff makes you feel like more is happening. And this is pretty brilliant. You think about how the thunder rolls and Jack's pinging eighth notes on the ride. Then we hear the twinkle of the piano before the pre-chorus. And the way Ed's voice cracks as he sings Devote Myself, I think also speaks to that secretive, contemplative nature of this song. It's almost like he doesn't want anyone to hear it. Like this is Ed questioning existence and his role in it. And it's almost like, well, should I even be asking these questions? Or should I be asking them at least loud enough for anyone else to hear them? And I love this section right here. It starts the song. Seek my part, devote myself, my small self, like a book amongst the many on a shelf. It's such a beautiful way to describe one's insignificance in the grand scheme of the world, but also one's importance to the lives of those immediately around him or her. Like, we have a purpose. Even if it might feel minuscule, we are affecting someone all the time. So be mindful of that. I love that. And then the way the chorus elevates in intensity till the end, but never quite exploding. I think it's just so smart. And again, there's a humility here. There's a modesty, but there's also an acceptance of who one is. I mean, this is such a powerful song in its short time frame and simple nature. It's just super well done all around. I give it a 4 out of 5.
Interesting. So you did a really nice job capturing what this song is. But let's first establish what this song is not. This song is not Once. This song is not Go. It is not Last Exit. It's the antithesis of all three of those things, right? So every previous Pearl Jam record leading up to No Code had essentially announced itself kind of the same way, with a song that basically just punched you in the face, grabbed you by the throat. Yeah, in whatever order you want to be hit. And I think, sometimes it obviously it does the opposite, as you very eloquently pointed out. But I also think it's important because there's a hesitancy about this song that you find shades of it on prior records scattered throughout, right?
Yeah.
So when you think of opening a record like this with Eddie basically whispering almost to himself before the band has even decided whether it even wants to make the album. And I think this is like, again, I keep going back to this idea that this is the watershed moment in the band's career. It's really historically important for a lot of different levels. When you hear this record and you hear that song, here's what I'll tell you I realized the second I heard Sometimes. It literally, in the first 30 seconds, I realized this is not going to perform in a stadium, this record. I automatically knew this is the anthemic, masterpieces that were, songs like Alive and Even Flow, Rear View Mirror and Animal, like that. We were not going to get that on this record. You just knew right off the bat. You could just tell. But I also think, and I think this is important because the song introduces the album's central emotional vocabulary. And that language is what I think is so important because it doesn't just frame No Code as a whole. I think it becomes the language for the band's subsequent records as well, because it points to what we're going to see is a very contemplative band. And that contemplative Pearl Jam that we see on Yield, that we see on Riot Act, that we see eventually on Gigaton, that we see a little bit on with Dark Matter as well. I mean, it reverberates all the way until today. And that was foreshadowed with this song, Sometimes, which opens up No Code. So I think it establishes something that the band would return to repeatedly, obviously, just a quiet opening as a way to kind of like reset our expectations about what's to come. And you use the word humility, and I think that's important too, because that vocabulary of uncertainty and humility and isolation and looking inward and trying to examine oneself, that becomes the framework for so much of what makes Pearl Jam music great from this point forward. So
Agreed.
I'm going to go 4 out of 5 as well.
All right. I like it. We've done it. Handshake.
Also,
all right.
I would say too that right off the bat, we just listened to a record that came before it that says 5 against 1, I'm fighting the world. And as soon as we hear Sometimes, it's like the speaker, the band is saying, what the hell am I doing? What are we doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that also becomes No Code.
We're growing up,
well.
man. We're growing up. We're learning. We're
30 hits you like a ton of bricks. How about that?
I mean, they were basically 30 years old at this point, 31 maybe.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to Hail Hail. Musically, wow. I have always loved how Hail Hail just kind of comes at you when sometimes it's just hardly even over. It's kind of like a wake-up call of sorts. And I've spoken before about how much I love Stone's main riff here. That chord progression and voicings for each of those chords is such a unique approach before it gives way to the power chord punk thing in the verses. And look at Jeff, amen. He's doing more John Entwistle stuff here. Jack's groove is just so Jack. It's swinging yet straight ahead at the same time, just barely hanging on to the backside of the beat. And the song structure is just proper pop song. Like the intro doubles as the chorus, and it goes verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. Bob's your uncle. There you go. Architecturally, this is pretty standard, but it's how the band moves through these parts and Ed's musings about a relationship barely hanging on that keep it together. Is there room for both of us apart? Are we bound out of obligation? Is that all we've got? I get the words and then I get to thinking. I don't want to think. I want to feel. Ooh, I love that so much. As a married person, let's be honest. It's not always rainbows and butterflies, Paul. You gotta work at it, right? And I think what's funny is that it actually kind of reminds me of AA. Stay with me here. It works if you work it. Am I wrong?
It works if you work it. Yeah, no, all right, I'll give you that.
There you go. But anyways, when you're in dark moments of a relationship, especially when that's maybe been a thing for a while, maybe you're married, you start asking yourself questions. If it's been fraying for a while, are we bound out of obligation? Like, is this what we're supposed to do? Like, what if we have kids together? Do we stay together for them? Well, it sounds like the subject here is saying, I don't want to think about my relationship with you. I want to feel it, and I'm not. And I think Ed's way of articulating this facet of a relationship is why Ed is who he is. It's just brilliant. And you have here at the end of the second verse, oh, I could be new. You underestimate me. And this idea that your partner might need you to be someone else now. And there's this like almost futile and maybe dishonest approach to changing oneself to appease your partner. Like, what do they always say? Unconditional love doesn't ask the other person to change who they are. That's the unconditional part. And it sounds like Ed's singing from the point of view of someone in a conditional love. And I think we have all been there at some point in our lives, but it's just what a way to phrase that last gasp of a failing relationship. And then the bridge and the final chorus, it just doubles down on this idea, almost pleading for the relationship to remain intact somehow. And honestly, the way this song just sort of unravels and fades away, like, isn't that the perfect way to describe, musically at least, what's happening here thematically? It is brilliant, and I love it so much. And for me, it's a 4.5 out of 5.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not like this song when I first heard it. And I'll tell you why. This song essentially became the blueprint for what would later be Yield's ability to just make a straightforward rock song without having to follow the 10 aesthetic, the arena bombast, right? But I loved the arena bombast.
Me too.
I mean, that was the Pearl Jam that I had known.
But this was the one hard rocking song, so it was like all we had. That's why. I
okay, but here's the thing, right? See, and this is why you and I received, Gigatons so differently, because I heard a song that terrified you and made me infinitely excited. You know what I'm saying? That aforementioned song being Dance of the Clairvoyants. When I heard the song we're about to talk about, I got excited because, okay, if we're going different, let's be different. What I struggled with this song was it was Pearl Jam basically saying, look, we're not abandoning rock and roll. Like we're still going to hit you in the mouth with rock and roll. No matter what you thought coming out of sometimes, we can still bring it. We're still going to rock, but we're not going to be defined by it. We're not going to be defined by it. And we're going to make rock the way that we want to make rock. And we're not going to follow a script. And I thought, okay, well, I'm on board with that. I mean, this is great for the band. I think it's going to bring out a lot. But at the time, in the mid 90s, I was thinking, but damn, the script was really good.
It was.
It's like, all right, so like, where are we going? Is this the Matrix and let's make a sequel and then it just all goes downhill from there? Or and we're like, we should have just kept it at the original? Or is this a transitional song that moves the band because there's a familiarity to it, obviously, right? The immediacy and the sounds of it. It's a different sounding production. But here's the thing that I find fascinating about this. You talked about it as a relationship. I get that too. But I have come to understand Hail Hail now in a way that has actually elevated my appreciation for the song.
Ooh.
Because I have distanced myself from viewing Hail Hail in the isolated vacuum of a relationship between a man and a woman. And I'll tell you why. Because I think there's a meta quality to this song now. Think about what was going on with the band at that point in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you think about it, it's like the questions and Jeff barely being involved in so much of the creation of it, and a band fraying at the edges and coming apart at the seams, and Jack Irons getting there and being the stabilizing force. It's almost like this question of, are we still a band? Are we still good together? Are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? Those relationship questions could be applied to the band, not just a man and a woman. So in a lot of ways, I've now come to see this song almost like a metaphor for the band at large. And I'm not saying...
Are we bound out of obligation to continue rocking out? Yeah.
Right. And so it's hard for me to separate the band and what they were going through at the time, and successfully and triumphantly emerged from that, with the idea that it's a metaphor for them versus it's just disguised in this relationship between a man and a woman. And so I don't know, man. I think it's unconventional, and I do appreciate it for that reason more than I think I ever did in the past. I'm going to go 4 out of 5. I think the vocal delivery is also uniquely different than any other rock song on the catalog to that point. And I think I had it was not accessible to me at the time. I think the way he was singing, there was this like, almost like not like a nasally drone to it. You know what I mean? Versus this like aggressive baritone growl. And I was the one that had to adjust. I was the one that had to evolve.
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah,
it's like he was singing from a chair, as opposed to singing, standing up, leaning into the microphone like he was in the first couple of records.
Yeah, and there's a fatigue and a weariness to the vocal delivery, and I think that matches where they were at the time.
But it totally works.
Yeah, and that's why it works.
There you go.
But without that context,
sure,
I don't know if it hits me to the level where I would say 4 out of 5, which is what I'm giving it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say what I said when I first heard it, which is like 2 out of 5. You know what I mean? It's a good song.
All right, well, let's go to the first single that threw many for a loop. It is "Who You Are."
Oh boy.
Come to sand, not condescend, transcendent to consequences to transcend where we are. Who are we are.
Let's be real here. As a teenager, did not care for this song.
I loved it. I loved it.
You'll have your turn, Paul Ghiglieri.
You'll have your day.
You'll have your day. No, I didn't. And the opening drum pattern, it was different. And to me, at the time, it was not rock, right? And I didn't know what it was, and that threw me, especially hearing it as the lead single from the record. But herein lies the brilliance of a retro review, right? I can now accurately analyze it, or at least I have a better appreciation for it now as a 44-year-old than I did as a 14-year-old. And Jack Irons bringing the same vibe, he's still bringing to this day on his music. It's loose, but together. It's not without worry, but it's also confident. And that's the right support system for Ed's lyrics. For me, this is a continuation of what Ed began singing about in Sometimes, questioning personal existence and purpose, and in the context of this crazy world that we lived in, or that they lived in at the time. And we have to remember at the time, 95, 96, he was enduring some really fucked up personal stuff. He had the stalker, of course, the fame problems, and the whole band to varying degrees. But Ed was that avatar, right? He was the main character, and how we all process that kind of attention is different. Ed chose this path to retreat into himself, to hide away, to seek answers to all of his questions. And I think who you are is Ed struggling to understand what his role is, but knowing that who he is, whatever that is okay. And it doesn't matter the randomness or seemingly random nature of the world. We all have a part to play, hence that stoplight lyric towards the end of the song. You know, we go on a ride on this tune. You know, as Jack's groove kind of moves from a world groove to a more straight ahead rock groove in the second verse, and then you get the addition of Jeff's bass kind of bouncing along, so does Ed's ability to see answers to the questions that he's asking. We all have purpose, and he just wants to make sure we all feel as he does, just a little time before we leave. Now, musically, while I really do appreciate it now, it has never been my preferred mode of transportation when it comes to music, so it's not as high, I think, as some others, but I love what the song is trying to say, and I love Ed's evolution of self-confidence throughout it, even if I think that the Mosses in the aforementioned verse line is not that good. A little shoehorned for my taste. So with that said, 3 out of 5.
Okay. Let me count the ways I shall tell you why you're wrong.
Please do. I hear it every day at home.
As do I. Okay. Here's the deal, Jack. I think that this song is arguably the most historically consequential song in the catalog. And I'll tell you why. For sure it is on the album. Without question, it is on the album. This is a song where we really learn that Jack Irons is the drummer, and Dave, pick a Dave, is gone.
Yes.
I mean, if you didn't know, like you weren't paying attention, you know, you stopped, you know, maybe you got distracted during Vitology, whatever it is, you loved Vitology.
Is that an accordion? What the fuck?
I don't know. But you didn't know that Dave wasn't with the band. Let's just pretend you didn't know Dave wasn't with the band. There's no way you listen to this song and think that's the same drummer. That can't be. That can't be the same drummer. There's no way it's the same drummer. And you would be right. It wasn't the same drummer. This is the song where I think Jack Irons was allowed to bring his own musical language to the record and to the band on a lot of levels. But here's why I think it's so important. You get all the whole tribal percussive drum compositions, and you mostly hear it on this song, the one that comes after it. But I think that the result is like beyond remarkable when you think about it. I say that because they suddenly sound less like the Seattle rock band that we knew, and they sound like a band that's really exploring rhythm. They sound like they're exploring repetition. They sound like they are exploring melody, and it's that exploration and the ambitiousness and the willingness to push the boundaries that made me love Dance of the Clairvoyants so much. It's what made me excited about what was to come. If I'm not going to get old Pearl Jam, then give me something so wildly different that the hair on the back of my neck stands up. And that is what No Code's Who You Are did for me when I first heard it. It's what Dance of the Clairvoyants did for me when I heard it on Gigaton for the first time. So I'm fully on board with the band saying we are done being that and we are embracing being this. And if you're going to do that, lean into it, man. Just go head first into the pool, right? No dipping your toes in the water and taking 35 minutes to get waist deep.
I'm almost saying, hold on.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And so for you, it's the shock of cold water that you have a great distaste for. And until the water warms up, I don't know, 30 years later, you eventually begin to feel comfortable in that water. For me, I'm just like, let's go. It wakes me up in the morning and we're fresh and we're ready to go. We're ready to rock. So I loved this song then. I still love this song. Yeah, man, I don't know. I'm saying 4 out of 5 still. It's so incredibly important on the record, and I think it doesn't exist without Jack Irons. It just does not exist without him.
So I agree with you on its significance to the band's legacy, because it's a marker, and especially it's a choice to have it as the lead single. They did it for a reason. Of course they did. It's a test. And so because of that and what followed, it's important and it's necessary for the story of the band. In a silo, yeah, okay.
Right, but that rhythmic, atmospheric approach, you hear it on Yield, you hear it on Binaural, you hear it on Riot Act, you hear it on Avocado, you're going to hear it later on Dark Matter, you hear it in Shades on Gigaton. Basically, look, they never become this world music band that maybe, you know, was who you are disguises them to be. That they never become that. But the rhythm and texture that we see in the song essentially become much more important to songwriting for them from this point forward. And I feel as though they did so in such an authentic way with this song, because it wasn't Jack Irons or Dave, I should say, trying to drum in a way he had never drummed before, just to capture something that was different, you know, like the Beatles did with Revolver or Rubber Soul, which was also authentic, by the way, despite the fact that it was a wild departure from what they had done before. This was new drummer bringing in sound that is native to him. And that authenticity brought out something that was native to the rest of the guys. They just didn't know it yet. And I think for that reason, it comes together beautifully as a composition. I think sonically, it's the variety to it. It's diverse. I just think it hits, man. I just think it works for me. It's like Pearl Jam can do this song. Like, you know what I mean?
I will say this to you before we move on to the next song. People who love Apple products will tell you it's not about being first. It's about being best. Because Android users would be like, well, we've had that feature for 5 years. Yeah, but does it work as well as it does on this thing? In My Tree is next. Now, I mentioned my appreciation for, but not love for, Jack's World Groove on that last song, Who You Are. In My Tree is the opposite. This is perfect. Perfect. And I've always loved how Jeff and Ed enter almost immediately as well. The close to the mic nature of how Ed sings and recorded like this in that opening verse is contrasted so well to the much more open nature of the second verse once the guitars have joined us and Jack's beat kind of opens up as well, adding the snare, adding the cymbals. This is music that I can hear and see, right? And I can feel the tension built by the chord progression as Ed articulates his solitude. Like everyone else he knows is carrying on in their busy lives below, but he's alone up in that tree. And I've always loved the visuals of this song. I can picture the whole scene literally and figuratively in my mind right now. And I think that is a mark of a fantastic song. And the way that it opens up to the chorus is just sublime. It's a relief, it's catharsis, it's exuberance with these lines. Up here so high, I start to shake. Up here so high, the sky I scrape. I'm so high, I hold just one breath deep within my chest, just like innocence. The happiness of feeling untouchable, of feeling elevated spiritually, the stillness of yourself set against the movement of the wind, and by extension, nature. This is giving way. A theme we'd see play out more in the next album, Yield. But these were feelings, these feelings were necessary for Ed, and this was his way of recentering himself, and it was so important. Like, this is, you know how yoga is all about finding your breath while you challenge your body? This is like a version of that. This is like the yoga experience in a lot of ways. And
what's the dog pose? The
downward dog.
Downward dog. Is this the downward dog of the Pearl Jam
sure.
catalog?
This is the vinyasa. This is the vinyasa, baby. Now, it might be hard to rip yourself away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life, but sometimes that can be overbearing, and you got to find some innocence. And that's not the innocence, in the moral sense of a child, but the ability to experience the world without the baggage that you've accumulated all this time, right, only for a moment, right? And it all comes to a head for me with these lines. I remember when I swore I knew everything. Let's say knowledge is a tree. It's growing up just like me. Discard what you think you know and ask yourself, could I be wrong? And be open to accepting universal truths that nature can provide you. This is giving way before Pearl Jam officially gave way on the next album. And this song, thank you. This song is just so musically uplifting with the soaring McCready guitar lines over that beautiful main chord structure. And it reminds me of Given to Fly and how it uplifts. And it's got the Jack Irons signature all over it. This song is masterful in every way, and it's a jewel in the crown of No Code, if not the catalog. 5 out of 5.
Wow. Could you be wrong is the question that you posed. The answer is no. No, you are not. Who you are opened the door. It really did. And I talked about why. But I'm with you in that In My Tree kicks the damn thing off the hinges here because Jack is masterful. It is the clearest, most explicit demonstration of what Jack Irons brings to the band. It just is. And I think, you talked about that opening drum pattern. It's just, here's what's cool about it. That opening drum pattern does something that Mike McCready's guitar took decades to do on Black Live. Jack Irons' drum pattern on this song becomes the protagonist of the song. And it's Eddie's vocals that really seem to like float around it rather than dictating it. And I feel like the guitar parts are really economical. Like Mike's neither guitar player is ever dominating or taking over or, adding, I don't want to say unnecessary accents because they never do that, but it's not that they take a back seat either. It's just comparatively speaking, it's just very economical. You know what I mean? And that was also something that we hadn't always seen with songs in the catalog leading up to this. And I think it's a fundamental change on a lot of levels in Pearl Jam's songwriting hierarchy, because when you think back to the album I keep referencing, which is 10, the rhythm section generally supports like the vocals and the guitar architecture of a song.
Yeah. But
not here. On this song, it's the rhythm that is the architecture that essentially becomes the framework for what this song is. And I think that rhythmic drumming pattern, for it to be able to do that, is Dave talented enough as a drummer to achieve that? To create a drumming pattern that becomes the architect? Absolutely, he was.
WMA. It's possible.
There you go. Yeah. It's definitely possible, but it's different here because you have to consider the context of the fact that Jack's presence here, right, also mattered as a mature, calming influence that basically helps the members communicate better. And I think here's the key here, because in communicating better, they learn that they could start writing songs from unusual places that they had never dared try before. Yeah. And I think that doesn't happen with Dave, most likely. So, 5 out of 5. It's an epic song. It's one of the best they've ever done. And it is the highlight of Jack's tenure with the band. No question.
Nothing more to say, but it does make you smile. Okay, so I think I might ruffle a little bit of feathers here, Paul.
Hey, this is Jeff. Careful there.
There is a lot of love for this song amongst the Pearl Jam community. And before I get going, know this. I like the song a lot. Mm-hmm. Put it out there. But what I like about it kind of works in spite of the parts that I don't love as much. Now let's get those parts out of the way first, shall we? So we can end on a positive note. I want to end positively, Paul. And that is that it's repetitive. Very repetitive. You've got these Neil Young style chunky 4-chord groove, and it's nice, but it doesn't really go anywhere. And I don't recall when in the album's creation process that this song was written, but I would not be surprised if it was in that first half of 95. It's got some mirror ball stuff happening. And after a while, that can wear on me. Just recall our mirror ball retro review about a year ago.
Yeah.
Now, thankfully, that 4-chord structure is broken up a lot. Ed does repeat the first verse, but he also sings it completely differently, and it's broken up by his harmonica. Now, without these two distinctions, I'd probably chalk this up as maybe even skip-worthy after that first minute. But then,
wow,
the brilliant chorus comes around, Paul. I miss you already. I miss you always. I mean, simple yet effective, and its simplicity is made magical by Ed's performance, as is often the case. And while simple, I do really dig Jeff's guitar solo that leads us back to the chorus and that lovely, lovely line that honors Dennis Fleming of the Frogs. 3 crooked hearts swirl all around on my shirt. And again, though, the final minute of the song is something that we've already heard. There's no change in tempo. There's no new riff. It's just sort of there, in which there may be a reason for that I'm not seeing. But anyways, while I appreciate a love letter to a friend that you won't see for a while, and of course the secondary meaning, which is of course earned after Dennis's tragic death, it doesn't have enough to make it an elite song. It's just really nice, and that's fine. It's a 3 out of 5 for me.
Interesting. So you find the guitar parts repetitive. How long is this song?
Well, 3.5 minutes, something like that.
Okay, but you're comfortable with whoever said at 5 minutes and 11 seconds.
Yeah, but that's a completely different song.
It is, but I would argue that it is a lot of repetitive guitar sound for a much more extended period of time.
Oh, I completely disagree. I think there's like 5 different parts of that song. It's all over the map.
Dude, the riff to that verse just dun 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 dun. I mean, how many times is that repeated? Count it.
Not as much as this. I'll fight you tooth and nail.
All right, let's see. Somebody's got to do the math for us on this one.
Yes, I'll do it.
Somebody's got to. This is where I think Jeff's story gets interesting, is with this song, because it's a Jeff composition, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the record as a whole, has been outspoken in saying that he didn't feel like he was as creatively connected to it as maybe he would have liked to have been, and he's also on record as saying that he kind of arrived to the process with this song while feeling like maybe he had some other ideas that perhaps were more interesting. All that being said, though, I think that the song does beautifully connect to Pearl Jam's relationship with the aforementioned Neil Young, because this is around that mirror ball period. And when you listen to Smile, I mean, it's loose, it rolls, it's harmonica driven, you get the character feel to it. And honestly, like, it feels like a band kind of relaxing into more of a rootsy vocabulary. And again, what's cool about this record, and I think every song to this point has pointed to this, it's establishing a new musical vocabulary for the band. And in order to do that, you have to embrace different roots, and you have to be willing to experiment, and you have to expand your horizons. And so I think that's another crucial quality of this particular record. This is obviously a precursor to kind of like the rootsier sounds that we might hear a little bit of on Yield, and obviously later Pearl Jam records as well, with more acoustic instruments. I'm thinking songs like, The End and Just Breathe, and even later on this record with Around the Bend, there's harmonica, there are folk structures on this song as well. There's it kind of has an Americana feel to it, which is cool. You know what I mean? I would argue that it was ahead of its time in that regard, and it sits comfortably beside some of the heavier stuff like Habit and Lukin and Hail Hail as well. So I've always had a great appreciation for the song. I'm going to say 3.5, and I don't think that's being generous. I think that's me being critical of the fact that I just think there are stronger songs on the record that maybe don't allow this one to shine perhaps as much as it would on, say, something else. I think I would probably go 4 out of 5 if you put it on a different record. But I think it's a great song. Yeah.
No, I said I really like it. It kind of just stays in one spot. It doesn't shift enough for me.
I suppose so.
Yeah. Lyrically and musically, it's kind of there. It does that thing really nicely, but I want a little bit more. I mean, 3 out of 5 is pretty good.
If you take the harmonica away, I think I'd be more inclined to agree with that position.
Oh, yeah.
But I you know what I mean? Yeah.
Quick thought. Harmonica on Footsteps, yes or no?
Yes.
I like it too. Most people don't. We're in the minority. That's okay. They can be wrong. All right. Next up, off he goes.
Didn't see me on the flip side. On this trip he's taking for a ride. He's been taking too much on. There he goes with his perfectly unkept clothes.
We have spoken long ago about Ed's lyrical writing and what we like more, his poetry or his storytelling. And I will tell you, Off He Goes is S-tier storytelling. Ed is also brilliant at writing third-person perspective. His ability to inhabit how someone else perceives something and feels something, it's superpower. That's what it is.
Mhm.
Ed is the ultimate empath. And I think pair that with an ability to colorfully articulate rudimentary themes and moments and actions and feelings, and you've got the mark of an excellent songwriter. And by the way, he wrote the music to this one. Okay, it's a wonderful campfire jaunt, which, and I'm sure you're going to touch on this, is made even more three-dimensional by what Jeff, Mike, Stone, and Jack are doing around him. And I mentioned the third-person thing a second ago, but actually, I believe it was in Kerepesi, Poland, where Ed first mentioned this, that the song is about him. He's writing about himself in the third person. Ed believes that he is the bad friend, never staying long enough to actually be friends with the people he purports to care about. I mean, let's listen to the opening lines of the song here. Know a man, his face seemed pulled and tense, like he's riding on a motorbike in the strongest wind. So I approach with tact, suggest that he should relax, but he's always moving much too fast. What's really cool is the arpeggio guitars that come to the fore between the singing. It feels like we're out looking for this person, this bad friend. It feels like we're hiking or walking through the forest trying to find the friend, maybe to save him, maybe to just tell him everything's okay, maybe just to remind him that he's enough. I don't know. That's what it always feels like to me when I hear those guitars. And what's more, I feel like no one's in a rush. There's no pressure because these friends, the perspective Ed is singing from, know that Ed will come back. They love him anyways. And so the song breathes. And I mean, yeah, it's 6 minutes long, but I have personally never felt that it feels that way, right? And there's a space and an acceptance that some people need different things. And if you're truly their friend, if you've got that unconditional love that I mentioned earlier, it's going to be okay. I've always loved this song. Absolutely dynamite. Not perfect, but very, very lovely. 4 out of 5.
Hey, I think that's a great description. And I'm with you. 6 minutes doesn't even feel like it. I think you could probably make a compelling argument that this is the emotional centerpiece of the record. It just feels that way to me for sure. I also think it's where those themes of isolation and self-examination, they really become like brutally personal at this stage. Because like, what is this really? It's a dude admitting that he's just really difficult to know.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, this is not Eddie Vedder, like, I am voice of Gen X, this is just like, hey, I'm kind of a pain in the ass sometimes and I feel really bad about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that matters. You know what I mean? I think that distinction is really, really important because on the first 3 records, we get vulnerability, but what does it sound like? Like, how is it delivered to us? It's expressed through anger and trauma and feeling alienated. Songs like Jeremy and Wygo and Animal and Rearview Mirror and Confrontation. This is an example of exploring vulnerability through something very different because it's not anger, it's admission. And admission is important because that requires self-reflection, self-examination, maturity, and depth. And I'm not saying that all of that was absent on the first 3 records. I'm just saying that it takes a very different form here. And I think that's an important distinction to make. Wish List doesn't happen without this song. Low Light doesn't happen without this song. In Hiding probably doesn't happen without this song. sonically speaking. All those yesterdays doesn't happen without this. But you know what? Neither does. I mean, nothing, man. You know, that's an example, like a quieter song that becomes increasingly important, and that precedes a song like this. But I just think like that whole like later yield philosophy, you know, like rage becoming reflection. That happens here. It's starting to form here with Off He Goes. So I'm with you. It's a 4 out of 5. It's it's beautiful. It's contemplative. It rambles on in a way that isn't jaunty and jangly, but rather very reflective and introspective. I mean, Neil Young's all over this record. You just feel it, you know? It's great.
The 3-dimensional factor of acknowledging your own faults and articulating it through a story from a different angle. It's just like, I wasn't doing that shit at 30 years old. I'm barely doing it now.
It's great.
It's great. It's so good. All right, moving on to Habit. So Habit is a pretty straightforward rocker, and I think it juxtaposes that quiet nature and its shitty friend theme of Off He Goes pretty well here. This is a friend who really cares. He's seen others succumb to addiction and is warning them to not let it infect them too. And I love the I'm so happy with my righteous self line as well, because it's kind of tongue in cheek, right? Because the subject is not a saint themselves. You know, there's a bit of hypocrisy here, but nevertheless, the point is noted. Now, musically, very basic, drop D rocker, has but a few parts, very simple. But I like how the pre-chorus alludes to the chorus, but eschews it for the second verse instead. So we're left wanting, and we go back to the verse. And then when the second pre-chorus finally releases to the chorus, it's through jack iron staccato blasts. Bop, bop, bop. Never thought you'd have it. Like, thank you. That's how you release me there. It's so good. And I think Jack's drumming on this song is perfect, because I think your more typical hard rock drummer, let's say Dave A. or even Matt, would play it maybe too straight. And not that I mind how Matt would eventually play it, but on the record, there is a loose, wild nature to the groove that underscores the loose, wild nature of Ed's protagonist, who's fighting addiction, or I should say the friend of the protagonist. Now, the repetition of the chorus is both necessary, but also exhausting. And I do think there's a point to that, though, because addiction is something that can't be easily undone. So you try, and you try, and you try again. And while I don't usually like repetition like this, I think it works for this song for those reasons. Now, the famous "speaking as a child of the 90s" line. Very interesting. As a child of the 90s, we both are, we grew up with these bands and the huge losses that came with it, both before this record came out and after it. And a little more on that famous line, you know, Ed was not only making an inside joke about Mike Watts's "speaking as a child of the 70s" line from his song Against the 70s, but he was also saying, I'm going to live through this decade. And so far, it's been difficult, but I'm going to get through it. I won't be one of those that doesn't make it. And there's this bit of empowerment there, which I love. And it's much like another song that we'll get to in a little bit. I love the outro jam. It feels a little tacked on, but oh, it's good fun. It's good fun. So overall, this song is not elite for me at anything, but it does a really nice job of the things that it does do well. So for me, it's a 3 out of 5.
Interesting. I struggled with it then. I struggle with it now.
I feel that.
I guess the evolution here is that heavy becomes the color instead of the canvas. And I feel like Pearl Jam works best when it's the other way around. So look, it's dirty, it's fast, it's punky, it's impatient. And I think that, you know, when you think Ramones and some of the influences of many members of the band, all that is captured here. And it evolves later into messy things like Brain of Jay and Do the Evolution. I think it's better realized in songs like that. Even Grievance, arguably even Comatose, perhaps. Definitely as they aged even more and it evolved into what we've called, affectionately, dad punk with Superblood, Wolf Moon, and to a lesser extent, Mind Your Manners. and to a greater extent, running. But where I have a hard time with this one is that if you told me, hey, I'm going to play this Pearl Jam song from No Code, it's about alienation. It's about feeling disillusioned. It's about the habits of self-destruction and what's happening in the scene around them, and the loss of so many important people in their lives, and just people becoming trapped in the cyclical nature of self-destruction. I would be thinking, man, this is going to be like a signature Hallmark song on the catalog. This is going to be epic, you know? And that's not what this is. So, and I'm not saying, and that's me projecting what I want it to be based on the themes of the song. And I recognize that. I own that. So I can't fault the composition and its own ambitions for that. The question then becomes, does it realize its ambitions? And I would argue, yes and no. I think the fast, dirty, punky, almost impatient thing, yes, they nailed that. That's very much the tone. But heavy becoming color instead of canvas, that's the part of me that I question the choice. And I don't question the desire to make the choice or even explore it. That's the whole point of the record. But I question whether or not that choice landed then, and whether or not looking back 30 years later, it still lands. Because
do you think... Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm curious if you wonder if that it's almost like a distortion vomit, like here's the riff, you know, like just like there it is, heaviness.
I find it. I think Lukin on the record achieves whatever this could have achieved.
But do you think? Okay. Because I was going to ask, you know, is the point that Ed is so fed up with seeing people self-destruct that it has to come out this way?
Yes. And so I think as it is realized, the idea that, you know, like I said, it's about alienation and disillusionment and self-destruction and just people being trapped in this cyclical nature of self-destruction. I get all that. And I think that the delivery and the composition as a whole, it works. I just don't find it particularly compelling. You know what I mean? At sonically speaking, I think thematically speaking, it's incredibly compelling. And I think because it is so incredibly compelling, I think I want more of it. But that's the nature of a punk song. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we're going to make a punk song, but we want it to have layers of meaning. You know what I mean? It's not just this dirge of sound. And so I think in that respect, I respect it. I would have loved to have heard them explore this in a different format, I guess, or within the framework of a different kind of composition, because this one has just never quite landed with me the way a song like sonically speaking, the way a song like Grievance or Comatose or you know, MFC or Do the Evolution, especially Brain of J. I mean, that one first and foremost, and then all the other punk songs I talked about later. Like,
so what do we got for a rating here?
Well, what's interesting is like you extolled all of the song's virtues for why it's a 3. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 2.5, and so we're right around the same area here. But you know,
I mean, I'm with you. I was more positive in my explanation for my rating than you were, but we ended up around the same area. Anywho, got to move on to Red Mosquito. Right out of the gate, Red Mosquito feels different. And I think it's the first time that Pearl Jam ever did a waltz, a 3/4 time signature. And then you've got Mike with these partial slide guitar solos, one on either side of that first verse.
It's an Allman Brother jam, man. I love it.
It really, it is. That you're out of the gate, it feels that way, right? And I like this because it's very different. And you know, you're getting on my case about things being very different and me being like, gross, what is this? This was very different, but still in the rock ballpark that I'm used to, whereas Who You Are was like, no, I'm over here. And so I couldn't quite get that far, but this was different enough. So I was like, oh, what's happening? Okay, I'm into this. And you've got, there's not like a lot happening here. You know, you have the 2-chord main progression and the solos. They're both pretty simple, but it's the way those sections are used, almost like accents, at least in the beginning, that I like. And that's all well and good, but what I really love is that we don't go back to another verse. We go right into the next section, which is the chorus, a new section. Architecturally, this is miles different than your ordinary rock song. And then the way that the chorus ends and builds, where Ed delays completing the lyric, let me know. A little look from Mike. He's awaiting. Another look from Mike. Oh. And then there's that, I always talk about dynamics and tension building, right?
Yeah.
And then there's that release into the third Mike solo section. And this is just so smart to considering the ominous lyrics here that we have in the chorus. I was bitten, must have been the devil. He was just paying me a little visit, reminding me of his presence and waiting for me. I'm sorry, and letting me know he's awaiting. He's awaiting. Oh, there. And those lyrics right there, that was from the second chorus. And you might notice that Ed repeats the he's awaiting line here, unlike in the first chorus. It's another well-placed wrinkle to ramp up the tension even more. I love it so much. And it reminds me of Even Flow, where the first chorus is 3 bars and the second chorus is 4 bars. Just add a little one, just keep on adding a little tension. Now, before we hand it over to you, my friend, I got to briefly touch on the lyrical themes here.
Okay.
As legend has it, this was the result of Ed's food poisoning incident in San Francisco that rendered him
my hometown. I know.
Room ridden. He felt like death, and this was his ode to that moment. So I guess this song is a silver lining to some bad tuna. Anyways, the outro. I mean, come on.
That's great, dude.
This is one of the moments of the album. If I had known then what I know now, and over that final 4-chord arpeggio, it just feels so necessary.
Yeah.
Like it feels like resolution, even though we're not resolving anything. And I guess the idea is it all works out. It's hard to convince someone in the throes of food poisoning that it's going to be okay. But hey, here we are with a lovely song, Ed. And I got to say, we're now 8 songs in, and I feel like every song has done something completely different.
Vastly different.
I'm constantly being surprised. And for the most part, I'm loving it. Now as a 44-year-old, right? And this is just a really nice song with some fun wrinkles and some fun tension building dynamics. Not amazing by any stretch of the imagination for me, but really, really solid. 3.5 out of 5.
Okay. So, you know what's ironic is that by this point, the band had spent, I don't know how many years at this point, like fighting these external forces, being famous, biggest rock band in the world. The corporations that were trying to exploit and monetize that, Ticketmaster, media attention. And Red Mosquito, it feels more like a single person confronting these forces and these obstacles that are just beyond control. I just find that interesting. It's a lot like Hail, Hail in that regard, where it just feels like a metaphor. And I get the legend behind the song. But, you could also choose to feel like this is a song, about what the band's circumstances were.
Yeah.
I have a hard time separating the circumstances of what the band was going through with the overall product that is the end result.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I mean, I love this song. It's bluesy. Southern rock, you know what I mean? I talked about this with the Allman Brothers. You get that like Neil Young, Crazy Horse grime going on here.
It's half full before half full.
I know, exactly. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. And lyrically, and you touched on this a little bit as well. It's another song of vulnerability, and I think that's important. Physical suffering, whether you interpret that literally or just the suffering of being a band of brothers for 3 massive albums, and then
I think, by the way, I think him feeling like shit from food poisoning allowed him to find those feelings and articulate them in that duality that he always does really well. And you mentioned that with Hail Hail, so I think you're right on.
So method acting, but the helplessness, being trapped inside circumstances that you just can't control. I mean, all of that comes out beautifully in the song, and I think that the framework of that Southern rock sensibility just works so beautifully. And that looseness and that guitar interplay that you were talking about, I mean, you see that come out and yield, and I think the way you see it is that they discover a more accessible sound when it comes to the guitar playing. And like, again, this goes back to, musical language, rock vocabulary. They discover that without just reverting back to 10 and verses. And again, this is why songs like this matter in the catalog. It's why they matter on this record too. So I'm a big fan of this song. I've always loved it. I think 3.5 is as low as I can go for it, to be honest with you. Yeah. Big fan of it. Yeah.
I'm with you. Fair enough. Very good. All right. Let's move on to, I think it's the shortest song in the Pearl Jam catalog, Lukin. What happens when your friend makes fun of you for always writing really long songs? You write a punk song in under a minute and name the song after that friend. Simple as that, right?
Yep.
3 chords and the story of Ed eluding his stalker by hanging out at Matt Lukin's house. There you go. And for those of you who don't know, Matt was the bassist for Mudhoney for a long time before Guy Madison took over. Now, there's not much to say about this one for me, but it's pure catharsis with a tongue-in-cheek nod to Ed's friend, Matt Lukin, as I said. And sometimes less is more. And I think with a true story like this, maybe not dwelling on it, but releasing the demons in a quick way is the most helpful method. I think you'll notice they don't repeat the chorus, which I guess means it's not really a chorus. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean. And then it just ends on the last I heard, the freak was purchasing a fucking gun. And they just leave it there, which is a little off-putting because it lets your mind wander a bit, like possibly into some dark places. But of course, as we know, Ed is still here. Thank God. But I've always, you could go there. I've always enjoyed the song for what it is. But because it's so simple, it's hard for me to love it. It's almost like there's not enough to get my juices going. Before I can really get up to 5th gear, it's over. Now, that's probably part of the point.
Yeah.
But I don't love that. So I say that, but I'm still giving it a 3 out of 5.
Okay. It can't be longer than a minute. It's a psychological grenade, dude. Like it's like pull the pin.
Which I get.
Boom,
Which is why it's not 2.
Right. But I also think, like, what is this? This is the 9th song at this point in time. Think about all the songs that have led up to this. This is like sequencing relief, to be honest with you, at this point in time. It is. I mean, it's just, we needed this up to this point. It just feels like we are, and I say this like lovingly, it just feels like we are circling in a whirlpool of existentialism. And I'm totally into it. You know what I mean? But it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, we're thinking about existence, and then Lukin comes on. It's like, but get the hell away from me, dude! Like, just give me some space. You know what I mean? And I think that's perfectly natural.
Yeah.
And I think, again, the interplay of the band at work as they are working through those challenges together in the creative process, all of it comes out in the production. And I think that's why this is such a masterpiece on so many levels, is that it really is a great example of art imitating life. It really is. It's only like a minute long, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we needed it though. Otherwise this record almost becomes too meditative. So I appreciate it in that regard. You've already covered the background of the song, the whole stalker situation. So I'm not going to like get into that. I mean, it's absurdly compressed. like 60 seconds or whatever. But it's like what? How would you characterize this? It's the musical equivalent of what? Like slamming a door in someone's face, and like what is this? You know what I mean?
I think it's just screaming into your pillow.
It could be that too. You know what I mean? Yeah. It could be that too. So I don't know. I'm with it. I think that it's an important song. It's just a little mini psychological grenade. So I'm going 3 out of 5 too. And here's the reason why I will never be able to go higher. The slowed down version with strings is lush and gorgeous, and I feel it captures the themes in a way that complements this so beautifully that I almost wish it was a package where the song opened this way. And then there's a brief moment of silence, and then the electric guitar kicks in, and the last minute is just rage fest. I mean, how cool would that be?
That'd
if that
be sick.
One song.
Someone out there, please put this together. Just get songs, smash them together.
Yeah. So I'm with you. 3 out of 5.
All right. Here we go, guys. Very excited about this one. Present tense.
You can spend your time alone, redigesting past regrets. Or you can come to terms and realize you're the only one who can forgive yourself. Makes much more sense to live in the present tense.
Okay, here we go. This is, without a doubt, my favorite song on the album, and almost certainly in my Pearl Jam top 10.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
I love it. It's not a criticism.
Okay.
I would have never pegged it as in your top 10, though. That's interesting.
Well, I like to surprise you, Paul.
Yeah, you do. You do.
From the feeling of isolation with just Mike's guitar and Ed's voice, to the slow inclusion of the rest of the band, to the cathartic release that is that outro jam, Present Tense dials in exactly what's required. There are so many little details musically throughout that you don't even realize are there, including the egg shaker in the outro, the clock-like blocks that fade in and out before the outro jam. There's just so many little things that elevate this simple arrangement. And it is simple because the lyrical theme is simple in nature, but oh so complex for us to apply. Live in the now. How many times have we spoken about this song on the show?
More times than I can count.
Too many. Not too many, but a lot. And right from the jump, Ed is forcing us to reckon with some uncomfortable truths. Do you see the way that tree bends? Does it inspire? Leading out to catch the sun's rays, a lesson to be applied. Are you getting something out of this all-encompassing trip? I don't want to go on too long because I know you're going to have a lot to say about this, and I'm looking forward to that. But suffice to say, we all need a reminder now and then to not dwell in the past, to learn from it, yes, but to live in the now. Like, life is happening now. Be in it so you can be the best and truest version of yourself. And maybe most importantly, appreciate the limited time that we have. And that's what I think the outro jam is. It's the jubilant appreciation of life. And it all gives way to that sparkly, that little final bit there, an epilogue of sorts to fade away. And what that section means to you is something only you can know. But for me, it's kind of like a friendly warning. Like, hey, life will continue and you might consciously forget about what we just talked about, but don't actually forget it. Okay? It's like your inner self is keeping tabs on you or something. It's just, I could talk about this song forever. We don't have the time. It's a masterful song. Doesn't hit a bad note. 5 out of 5. Tell me why I'm right.
It's the masterpiece. It's the mission statement. You are right. 5 out of 5. If you know somebody that has just a general distaste for no code, and they are out there, and you're like, no, this record matters, man. Like, whether you want to accept it or not, this record matters. This is the song that you play that explains why. It just is. It is. Oh man, I mean, it takes the introspection that has to this point, like, arguably been the lifeline of the record, and it turns it into something more universal and less personal, in the sense that, like, the struggle to stop living in the past, and as you talked about this, and or even obsessing about the future and actually inhabiting the present, like, that is the calling. That is living with no code, or that is the code. I don't know. A couple of different ways to look at it. Musically, though, it's interesting because I think it demonstrates like the new Pearl Jam of this time in a lot of ways, right? Because it begins really quiet and then it builds, but it builds patiently.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guitars become like increasingly not loud, but expansive. And then the climax, it's not about Eddie like screaming over a guitar riff like we see with Black, which I adore, by the way. But it's about like this accumulation and then just this release. And I think that's important too, because it's a major compositional evolution from where they had been previously with a record like 10. And that's why I cited Black. But Jeff singled out this song alongside two of my favorites, Who You Are and one of our shared favorites, In My Tree, as evidence of how this is the band basically evolving and growing. And it's Pearl Jam discovering something that they showed very little of in the previous 3 records. It's Pearl Jam discovering the power of restraint, right?
Yeah.
And we heard it on the first song on the record with Sometimes, but it truly becomes powerful and impactful on the 10th song of the record with Present Tense. 5 out of 5. I'm with you.
Love it so much. And by the way, the late, great Glenn Hansard covered the song all the time and does it great justice, as I'm sure you would imagine. And
yeah.
So anyways, let's move on to Mankind.
It's all just inadvertent imitation, and I don't mean mine. It's all across this nation.
This is such a Stone song. I mean, it's written by Stone, of course, and it's the only song that he's the lead singer on outside of the Lost Dogs, Don't Give Me No Lip. But I mean, it's really Stone's sensibilities. And if you know anything about Stone, you know he's a sarcastic guy, he's cracking jokes, he's dry, he's witty, and at least in his younger days, by many accounts, a bit snarky. So to write a song called Mankind about feeling detached from that species, chef's kiss. I love that. I love that for us. And honestly, there's definitely a way that Ed would write about this subject matter, and it would be heavy and really good. And now that I'm thinking about it, he probably has at some point. But the way that Stone writes about it is just
I'm looking for my board when we write lyrics. I wanted to write "Let Stone Sing" and just hold it up right here, and I can't find it.
You can't find it. Okay, well, when you find it, you let me know. But I think this is it's just so unique. Besides the fact that it's Stone singing, it's so unique to the catalog, especially to this point. I mean, listen to the chorus here. It's all just inadvertent imitation, and I don't mean mine. It's all across this nation. If it's just inadvertent simulation, a pattern in all mankind, what's got the whole world faking? Like, so many people don't like themselves. They portray themselves in a way that they think others want them to be. And so because of that, everyone talks and acts the same. And I think about when I was in high school, and the same could be said for every generation since then, really. But, all the girls shopped at all the same stores, did their hair the same way. Same with the guys. Same haircuts, same sneakers, same jeans and button-downs from the same stores from the mall. We all look the same. And it's like everyone wanted to fit in and yet one-up each other at the same time, and yet it wasn't real. And the real ones actually were the loners, the art kids, the band geeks, the gamers, the theater kids. And so I think about this song, which, while fun, is nothing to write home about dynamically. It's a straight ahead kind of punky rock song. But I think it offers up an attitude that many of us, those who are fascinated with music, and especially Pearl Jam fans, will relate to. So for that, I'll always have a nice little spot in my heart for it, But as a complete composition, it's fine. So I'm going to go 3.
Okay. I'm going 2. I cannot go as high as a 3. It's fun. I get it. Stone sings it. I get it. It's so ironic to me that is this the Olive Branch? Is that what this song is? Because it just feels like the band's coming apart, and somehow they arrived at the democratic conclusion of let Stone sing and it'll all be okay. I don't know. But here's why I think it's important. Up until this point, They needed to make sure that listeners understood, that the world understood. This is a band, man. Like, this is Pearl Jam. This is not Eddie Vedder and like a backing group behind him. You know what I mean? Because these guys are too talented and too amazing at what they do to ever be seen otherwise. And I think No Code was determined to make sure, and Yield carries that torch forward, perhaps even brighter, was determined to make sure that happened. And that's why Jack is so prominent on In My Tree and Who You Are. That's why we hear harmonica. That's why we hear, Stone singing, quite frankly, on Mankind. And I get it. I mean, it's fun. But at the same time, like the whole, and I think the garage aspect of it, the goofy, there's like a almost like a Brit-pop feel to it at times. It just doesn't do it for me. I'm sorry. It's a 2 out of 10 for me. But I appreciate
2 out of 10.
It's 2 out of 5 is what I should say. I don't know if I get 2 out of 10. That's harsh.
Very different score.
That's very, very harsh. But I think it's essential to the record. I don't know if we did an essential song. I'm not saying I would pick this one, but I think it is essential to the record within the context of, how and why it was created as an album and what it meant for the band and how it influenced their ability to communicate together and collaborate moving forward. So,
okay.
I don't know. It's
fair enough.
Do I skip it? No, because I'm usually listening to No Code all the way through. Yeah. I just appreciate it. But if I'm on, if I'm on Sirius XM and it comes on, maybe if you introduce it or Jessica, maybe I'll let it play through.
All right, let's move on to I'm Open. I'm Open is tricky because I'm of two minds. As poetry, I love it. As music, not so much. But you can't really separate the two because combined, they are the piece of art that Pearl Jam decided to give us. This idea of growing up, learning that what you thought you knew wasn't real, becoming sensitized to the world while perhaps becoming desensitized to how you feel, truthfully is a weird thing to think about. Now, I'm Open's placement right after Mankind is interesting because, as I mentioned, Stone complaining about how people choose not to be themselves, and Ed here is talking about revolution and reinvention as one grows up. I totally hear that. And as someone who realized who they truly were in college, this realization makes a lot of sense and holds a lot of water for me. But their artistic choice to display it this way with that giant interlude of I'm open, come in, just doesn't do it for me. I love that they went for it, and I'm generally not going to skip it because it's part of the piece of art, and I'm an album guy. And I'm an adult now. I probably skipped it when I was younger, but I see the value in it. But I have to be honest and say that in a vacuum, it's just not that strong. So I'm going to say 2 out of 5.
Could not agree with you less.
Oh my God. He's going to rate I'm Open higher than Mankind. Okay.
Oh, yes, I am. Look, this is where No Code goes like full experimental right here, right?
But why? We've already done that. We've already done it. We don't
you get atmosphere, like there's like fragmentation going on here, childhood imagery, like alienation. It's the
spoken
whole record.
Word.
Yeah, if you took this record and you're like, all right, go onto a stage and you have a guitar and you get, I don't know, 2 minutes, like sum up the record. Like this is what it is. You know what I mean?
First of all, it's 3 minutes, and second of all, when he has played it in concert, and I've seen a rendition of it, it's just he just does the
I'm
interlude.
Open. Yeah, come in. I don't know why. Because the fragmentation, the childhood imagery, the alienation, the loss of innocence, all that is so beautifully captured here. And the poetry is magnificent. I actually really like it.
Yeah,
look,
it is.
Look, some people like me are going to say this is essential. It's essential to the fabric of this record as a whole. Other people think it's just like an interlude that was like stretched into a song and probably doesn't belong. I get that, and you can make the argument that both reactions are defensible. I understand that. So I'm not saying you're wrong. Just saying I disagree with you. I think that the importance of this song is not necessarily as like a standalone composition in a vacuum. I think it's really about the album as a whole, No Code's willingness to do something that the other ones did not want to do, which is be willing to leave things unresolved, and it does that really, really nicely here. The record doesn't need to have every track be this single worthy composition. It just doesn't. It also doesn't need every song to be a rocker or a ballad. You know what I mean? Or some introspective, like bluesy song. I just, if you're going to experiment, like lean in. Again, dance of the clairvoyance.
Yes, but there's good experimentation, and then there's whiffs.
Okay, so are you in the Vitology has a bunch of filler and should be cut down, and there's like easily 3 or 4 or 5 tracks that should just be flicked off of it camp? Or are you in the no, those songs are essential to the album camp? Because if you feel that way about Vitology, I think you have to feel that way about No Code.
Well, I look at I'm Open as more of a song than Aya Davanita, which has no vocals, number one, and Pry 2, which is more like an interlude. And then what's the next one? What's the last one?
Stupid Mop.
Yeah, that's nothing. So, I mean, I don't skip them on Vitology because they're short enough, and Aya Davanita is actually kind of a fun little musical number, so I kind of get into it. This is not an interesting musical number. This is like...
Oh, come on. I think the guitar works. It's
yeah, it's fine, and then it keeps going and going and going. It's like, do something.
Okay, we're just
the poetry is great. We agree. The poetry is great.
3 out of 5.
Jesus,
I'm
Christ.
not going any lower. It's bad. I'd rather listen to this 10 times in a row than Mankind twice.
Oh, you shut your mouth when you're talking to me. How dare you besmirch the good name of Stone Carpenter Gossard? We have Stone minions out there. They'll come after you.
Hey, as they should, because that man is a beloved legend. So
yeah, he absolutely is. Let Stone sing. Let Stone sing. Don't let Ed talk. Don't let Ed talk. You know how Ed does? You know, his 7-minute stories nowadays.
Yeah, I know.
Just cut one of those out and let Stone sing a song. Well, we're fine.
Hey, I was all into Grammy Out of Control at Ohana last year. Yeah. I was thinking I'll have fun. If they play Mankind this year, I will. I'll be bouncing around having a good time with it. Don't get me wrong.
Can you imagine? Pearl Jam's back. Here's Mankind.
Open
Woo!
with it. Open
Love
with it, please.
Oh my God! Can you imagine? What if it's the Friday show, and instead of Ed walking out, it's one of his friends, and it's Stone. Hi guys, experimental version of Mankind by myself.
I'm gonna play guitar. He's gonna sing.
Yeah, it's reversed. It's Ed playing the guitar. Anyways,
yeah, this is a terrible Eddie impression. Go on.
It was. I'm just ignoring it. I'm going right by it. Your voice is deep enough already. We need to go to the full edit.
That's
fair.
One.
Yeah. Anyways, Around the Bend, last song. The final track, Around the Bend, was definitely a song I did not care for or understand or want to listen to as a younger person. However, as we've both said on this show in the past, growing up and having kids of your own changes a lot of perspectives that you had. In fact, thinking about the realization or the reinvention of the subject on I'm Open, wait until that person has a kid. Now, as many of you probably know, this is a lullaby that Ed wrote for Jack's son, Zach. It was sort of a gift from Ed, as I'm sure he empathized with Jack not being able to be home enough to spend enough time with his new baby. And it's crazy that even at that young age and without kids himself, Ed understood that connection. And despite the fact that he didn't have that himself with a father figure, it is that part alone a really impressive song because it's done so well. And there are layers to the beautiful words of protection and shepherding that Ed sings. And, listen, we all as parents commit to our kids that we will help them navigate the future through our love, through our wisdom. And I think the way this song was recorded, very campfirey, laid back, Western style, saloon piano, jangling in there. It's just very calming and grounded. And I think it's a lovely way to end the record. And I do think it goes on maybe just a bit too long, but its immediacy and its intimacy is very underrated. And I wish I appreciated it more then, but I do now. As Mosquito said, 3.5 out of 5.
Wow. Okay. This was an automatic skip for me when I first heard this record. I was like, what is this? I love this song now. Yeah. Absolutely adore it. And you know what? I'm going to say something here. This is punk.
Okay, go on.
It's punk. It's not a punk song, but it's punk. And I'll tell you why. So you have an album that tackles fame, isolation, fractured relationships, aging, talks about anxiety, talks about spirituality, being angry, self-doubt, identity. And they don't finish with some monster riff. They finish by saying, good night.
Yeah.
that's radical, dude. That on so many levels, that's punk. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna flip you the bird. This is how we're ending. And in a lot of ways, that's what Stupid Mop was, right? Also punk. So
okay.
Different kind of punk, and I admittedly I would rather listen to Around the Bend 10 times out of 10 than Stupid Mop even once. But I'm not going to get sidetracked with this. It's a beautiful ending. It's a beautiful ending to this record. And I think it's important too, because as you talked about, it's a lullaby to Jack Irons' young son. And I think it makes the ending profoundly appropriate for the reasons that I just talked about. But let's not forget the impact that Jack Irons had on the band, right?
Yeah.
So, he didn't just replace Dave A. I mean, literally, he replaces Dave A, but he didn't just replace Dave A. He literally changed how Pearl Jam could write a song, and he taught them a new way to communicate. And I think that was important because they're not here, most likely. We used to have a segment on the show called What If, and this was one of them.
Yeah.
And I think you and I both came to the same conclusion that this band is probably not here today if Jack Irons does not play with them on No Code. So he brought a very different rhythmic vocabulary. I've talked about that to this record, but they gave him the room to actually use it. And I think that was key. That was important because that's not easy when you're really at odds with the people that you've been making music with, and you bring somebody new in. If anything, it's that person who gets marginalized. The fact that he was allowed room to breathe, I think, was really important. No Code basically said to you as a Pearl Jam listener, hey, we can experiment. We can get wild. We can do different things, right? We can be something more than what you think we are. And the next record that comes out says, now we're going to decide after all that what we want to keep. And I'm totally down with that because this record, the experimentation was the artistic exploration, the, Jackson Pollock, if you will, that I just adore. I really do. And I love this song. And when I had kids, I loved it even more. I'm with you. So for me, as it is, it's minimum 4 out of 5. I'm going to say 4.5 out of 5. I love this song. I listen to it all the way through all of the time. Okay. So let's try and let's end by talking about where this record sits. And I'm not talking about ranking it because Pearl Jam is when Pearl Jam becomes Pearl Jam, right? They discover this huge, massive anthemic sound. What comes next? Versus. That's where they're like, oh, this sucks. We're going to resist becoming Pearl Jam now. You know what I mean? Let's push back against the success. And that leads us to Vitalogy, where it's like, okay, let's start breaking Pearl Jam apart. Let's dismantle it. Let's take the corduroy jacket off and put it on the mannequin where it belongs. But then I think it's like the experimentation becomes like really, really explicit at that point in time, and that brings us to No Code. So what is No Code? That is where I think Pearl Jam finally starts asking themselves who Pearl Jam actually is. Like, who are we? Who are we? Because
they had built the capital to do whatever they wanted to. That was the silver lining of all that success and fame that was freaking them out is, well, you got it in the bank now. Do whatever the hell you want. It's house money.
They completely destabilized their identity on this record. Now, granted, on Yield, they rebuild it. And I think that's really, really cool.
But on their own terms.
On their own terms. Exactly. Right? Exactly.
Brilliant.
But that doesn't happen without this. So like you have to break something apart to put it back together. Right? I don't know.
Absolutely.
Look, most people listening, not all, most will probably say, look, this isn't the best album to hand somebody who's never heard of Pearl Jam before. Some people would say this is the album to hand them. You know what I mean?
Also
I don't know. Also fair. Exactly. But I would say that it's one of the most important albums to understand if you want to understand Pearl Jam, and that they learned that they could survive as a group commercially and still make money and still sell records and artistically and still feel like they can be themselves and explore and not like suffer under the weight of and suffocation of fame and success without giving us what we wanted or what we thought we wanted. And I think that was key because that was a huge risk, right? Mm-hmm. And they took it and we're still here.
Well, and they ended the record by saying, see you around the bend.
Mm-hmm.
And we certainly did. A couple of years later with Yield, where this ethos, this mindset was more matured. It was more processed. It was more understood and more realized. And that's why every record since No Code has been exactly what they wanted to do at that time.
Exactly.
And less a reaction of what was being imposed on them by outside forces.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I love this record. We were mildly harsh here and there, but mostly very happy to extol its virtues.
Well, that, and it's like, it is the one record in the whole catalog where the way we would have reviewed it when we first heard it in the mid 90s compared to now are night and day.
Yes.
And I don't know if there's any other record that features that level of disparity than this one in the entire catalog.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that say? I think it says a lot.
When we reviewed Riot Act, it was somewhat stark what changed in me over the 20 years since, because I think we did 20 years after in 2022, I think we reviewed it. But this one definitely is more stark and for the better. So, curious what you all out there think of No Code. If you are relatively new to Pearl Jam, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because you're jumping in much later than maybe others had. And if you're an old school fan, has the record changed for you? Did you love it then? Did you hate it then? Do you love it now? Do you hate it now? What's the story? Let us know. Right? That's it. We are pushing into the back half of the second hour of this episode. So we're going to nip it in the bud. And I'll just say that if you are loving this stuff, there are links below to support the show with Patreon and the Pod Shop. Please follow us wherever you can on social media, Instagram, Twitter, fucking Facebook, whatever, all those things that the kids do these days. The TikTok, we are on the TikTok, Blue Sky. What else is there? We're not on Snapchat. I don't have time for that.
I don't know what that says about us either.
Probably good things, honestly. The less we know about that, the better. And listen, we got a big weekend coming up in just a couple of days at the old London Bridge Studio and Shibuya Hi-Fi in Seattle, Washington, celebrating this album at 30 and 10 at 35. If you're going to be there, we'll see you in a few days. If not, we'll see you maybe at Ohana in a few weeks. Other than that, we'll see you next week. Please go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications here on YouTube. And if listening only, Paul,
Rate, review, and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Feed that algorithm, and we will see you around the bend.
He had another bullet in his chamber, kids. You love to see it. Woo! 2 for 2 with the segues today. You love it. All right. We'll see you next week. Until we do, listening to or watching
The State of Love and Trust.